Hi, I'm Zach. I've been vegan for about 8 years, and in this video, I'm going to talk about why smoking and vaping do not align with veganism. And I'll talk about the literal reasons why they're not vegan, but also beyond that, what a longtime supporter and follower and friend shared in a comment who told me, and I never heard this perspective before, and it makes a lot of sense. So if you're vegan, by the end of this video, it'll be very painful, especially if you're smoking, and it's very hard to quit, but it'll give you another reason to quit. So, number one, most of us know that, like, if you're smoking cigarettes, like straight up cigarettes, a lot of cigarettes are made with animal products, which I've heard it's the gland from the anus of a beaver or something. It has some sweet aroma. So please, if you're smoking cigarettes and you want to be vegan, and there's tobacco you can buy that does not have that if you research it, or just quit the tobacco because it's bad for you, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, number one, most vegans and have learned about this, know that it's common knowledge in the vegan world, I suppose. But if you didn't know that, now you know. Cigarettes, most cigarettes have animal products in them, and even cigar wraps, blunt papers, tobacco. And so another reason that I've thought of, which I'm not really going to say this is a reason for it, why it's not vegan, because it's more of a perfectionist thing, which is why I've never really talked about it. But I think it's still worth mentioning here, because there's still some merit to it. And that's whenever you're vaping something or you're smoking something, whether it be weed, nicotine, or whatever, especially if you're buying it at a gas station or store or anywhere where it's commercially done, there's going to be a lot of unnecessary deaths. And sure, most of them are insects and maybe like smaller animals, but you see, I'm thinking and just being conscious, like, think of every single step it takes to get that e-cig from where it's made, all the ingredients brought there, driven there, all the ingredients, and then they make it there, and then they bring it somewhere else to a storage facility, then they bring it somewhere else, all the driving, all the energy that takes, and everything it takes to create that energy, however they create that energy, whatever ecosystem they destroy to create however much energy it takes to do that. And it may not be a whole bunch, but it's a certain amount of energy. And the whole definition of veganism, the part that says as practical as possible, these things are not practical. Like, we don't need them in our lives. As painful as that it is to hear, we don't need marijuana and THC and even caffeine. And so there's a lot of things we don't need inside our lives that we're creating energy, and we're driving around, we're running over animals. Like, the more we have to drive, the more we have to put energy to create products, the more deaths that are going to happen. It's just inevitable. And so the reason why I haven't talked about this and why I didn't want to really make this a valid reason is because it's very perfectionist based, and veganism isn't about being perfect. But I still think it's worth mentioning, because these things we don't need in our lives. And just think about all the energy we could save and lives we could save, even if they're tiny lives, even if they're insects, even if they're tiny animals. I mean, being a vegan and being consistent, I don't know about you, but I still hold compassion and empathy for all those beings. And I try to be consistent and not biased. Although it's much easier to love a fluffy dog. Sorry, Angus, I didn't mean to scare you. Oh my gosh. Okay, now I feel bad. I was all selfish and I wanted to get a cute shot of the dog, and then I woke him up and scared him. I'm sorry. It's okay. It's much easier to have empathy for fluffy animals than insects or maybe even rats or whatever. Smaller animals that we don't see every single day. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. You're a good boy. Good boy. Good boy. But that doesn't mean it's right to be speciesist for them. If you're vegan and you've heard people talk like this or about these things, you know what I mean. I think you know the point I'm trying to make is, if we don't need these products, then wouldn't it really be vegan to not put our resources and our money towards them, to not fund these industries that, even if it's just a small amount of lives, like, we'd still be saving individuals. But again, it's a very perfectionist-based mindset, and I know just thinking of things like that, like whenever I thought of things like that, like, it gets overwhelming. It's like, oh, well, then I should be very minimalist, and then I should like very extremely minimalist. Like, what were those like ancient vegan, like, that long ago, I don't know, thousands of years ago, there was some, I forget if you know who I'm talking about, some, and they weren't called vegans, but they were basically vegans in like long ago, like ancient times or whatever. They would even wear masks so they wouldn't breathe in bugs. Whenever they breathed, they wouldn't walk like certain places. They would only eat fruit fallen from trees. It becomes in such a way where you're diminishing your own life. It's like, how far are you willing to sacrifice your own life for others? And then even that seems like a sickness. So I think there's a balance, and that's like, it's very vague as far as that point. But that leads me to the third point, which Marcos made, which I do think is more valid than that perfectionist state of mind way of thinking. That was just something I figured I would mention, because it's something worth mentioning, especially if you're not really thinking about it and you're a vegan and you're buying all these things that you don't need, whether it be clothes, like nicotine, e-cigs, weed. Like, those things take energy and transportation, and unless you're making it on your own and you're seeing how it's done, you never really know how many lives were killed for the thing that you didn't even need. So that's all I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying we need to be perfect, and but it's just, you know, we can always do better, and that's one way that we can do better. But anyway, the last point about why smoking and vaping is not vegan that Marcos made and told me was, you yourself, you're an animal. And so whenever you're smoking and doing something that's harmful to you, you're harming yourself. So whenever you're harming yourself, you're harming an animal, you're exploiting yourself for that pleasure. So that's not vegan. You're an animal, and you're harming yourself whenever you smoke. So if you really had love for yourself, then you would not do it. Which I thought was a very unique and good point. I mean, sure, I had that thought, like, if I really love myself, then I wouldn't be putting all these chemicals and things into my body. But I never thought about it, like, with the vegan frame or whatever, where, like, it's not vegan because I'm an animal and I'm harming myself for my own pleasure or whatever, or because I'm not willing to grow and change and go beyond needing these things. And sure, I can see maybe some people are thinking like that even, like, how far are we willing to go? Because it's like, some things, I don't know, like, some people like living on the edge, and like, everybody's different. Everybody has their own way of living. So like, some people like risking their lives, skydiving, I don't know, jumping off bridges, certain things like that. And that means you're putting yourself in danger for your own entertainment or pleasure or thrill. And so that wouldn't really be vegan technically. So it's like, I mean, obviously that if I were to challenge that way of thinking, then that's the direction I would go. But I still think there's some merit to that too as well. And that has helped Marcos, and that can help somebody else who is vegan. So if you wish to have compassion and be completely consistent and be just for all beings, you're also a being. You're also an animal. And whenever you smoke and you put these chemicals into your body, you're harming an animal. So that is not vegan. But I know for me, that knowing that for whatever reason, that was not a huge factor in my motivation to be quitting, because for whatever reason, the logic of that, my mind's able to work around it, mental gymnastics or whatever. But maybe it does for you. Marco said it has helped him a lot. So maybe it will, whoever's watching this, if you're vegan and you're thinking about quitting and, you know, you need a reason, maybe that's a good enough point for you. I think what matters is we stop smoking and we stop doing these things, because, you know, as much as we want to say it's our lives and it's our pleasure, if you're smoking daily or drinking daily, doing something daily, putting these chemicals into your body daily, it's no matter what, it's not what's best for you. It's not going to give you the best life. You're not going to you're not going to be the ideal version of yourself. And I'm not even talking about some like perfectionist like type of person where you have to be perfect in every way. I'm just talking about like a general baseline of joy. A general baseline of just being happy to be alive for life. Whenever you have to rely on something else to deal with your stress, to bring you joy, to entertain you, whatever it is, and you do that every single day, you may tell yourself that you're comfortable and this is what you want, this is your life. But on your deathbed, whenever you look back, just imagine, right now, the ceiling is collapsing. You died. You're rising out of your body, you're looking down. Is this really how you want to leave? Is this the deepest experience you want to get, is from just that? What if there's more? What if you could feel more joy and bliss? And what if you could sit here and relax at the end of the day and still feel that high, but without that substance? But you never tried. How would you feel as you're floating away from your body? You never get another chance. You lived your life. You smoked, you drank, and you only got to live to 50 because you smoked and you drank or whatever you did. That's all I'm saying. I'm hoping I can inspire some of you to change your ways. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's up to you if you want to do that. But I hope I can trigger something inside of you, something within you already, so you can take the next step. Whatever it is, you got this. And maybe you take a couple steps back, but you got this. You can do it. You can find a deeper sense of joy, fulfillment in life, and deeper sense of pleasure, too, beyond those substances. Bliss. You can. And compassion through helping others. And through doing what is right, what is just. I believe in you. Leave a comment down below. Are you vegan? Are you thinking about quitting? Whatever it is, comment. Thank you. For the animals! Woo!